Hi, this is Dr. Perry Carpenter. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to join me on this week's video. On this week's video, we're continuing with our new series entitled The New Era Face-to-Face Evaluation. And this is session 2 in our new series. In the first session of this series, we talked about the need to revamp, rework, retool, and completely overhaul our face-to-face evaluation. And the necessity for this reworking of the face-to-face evaluation has to do with recent changes in the DWC's interpretation of the complexity factors, which has had the devastating trickle-down effect of dramatically reducing the qualified medical evaluator's reimbursement for the QME evaluations. And these changes have now fully hit the QMEs right where it hurts, which is in the QME wallet. And I'm getting calls on a daily basis from QMEs wondering what the heck they're going to do with their QME practice in the face of new lowered reimbursement rates. And one of the greatest concerns that qualified medical evaluators are sharing with me has to do with the hours and hours and hours that they spend in preparing the reports for which they're now not getting paid. And so I thought this would be a good time to create a new program for all of us to take a new and a fresh and a updated look at our face-to-face evaluation with our examinee. Now, because of the changes with the new interpretation of the complexity factors by the Division of Workers' Compensation, it's essential more now than ever that we know exactly what it is that we're doing when we arrive at the face-to-face evaluation. Now, unlike times in the past, when we could typically bill an ML 104 for almost each and every case, and whereas before we had unlimited time to spend in the face-to-face evaluation with injured workers, and where we could go on and talk and discuss a wide range of topics and free-flowing issues as they arose during the face-to-face evaluation, that no longer flies because we're not getting paid as we used to get paid. And so now the face-to-face evaluation has to be specifically focused. It has to be specifically directed. It has to be specifically targeted to the issues that are in dispute with the case. And we talked in our first session in this program about how to identify the type of case that you're getting under the specific labor codes that govern the QME panel process. And that has to do with labor codes 4060, 4061, and 4062. So we talked about how to identify the type of case that you're getting in our last session. Also in our last session, we talked about the new interpretation of the complexity factors as it applies to your upcoming evaluation. It's important more now than ever that you know exactly what medical legal billing level you're going to be billing at before you get to the face-to-face evaluation. Otherwise, you're going to be like many doctors who are finding out that they're spending hours and hours and hours on these evaluations for nothing. Really, basically just donating their time to the insurance company and donating their time to the Division of Workers' Compensation for which they're not getting paid. So it's critical that you establish the complexity of your evaluation before you get to the evaluation, so that when you get to the evaluation, you know exactly what it is that you're doing, exactly what it is that needs to be done, exactly which forms need to be completed, exactly which examination procedures need to be completed, and exactly which examination procedures can be eliminated. In other words, it's critical that now more than ever we be targeted and focused when we actually get to the face-to-face evaluation. Now, in today's discussion, I want to expand on that concept, and I want to continue that concept and talk to you about two things. One has to do with a procedure that comes prior to the face-to-face evaluation, and another has to do with your first procedure at the face-to-face evaluation. The first procedure has to do with confirming the examinee's attendance, and the second procedure has to do with establishing the tone of the QME evaluation. Now, the purpose of going through a confirmation process prior to the face-to-face evaluation is because imagine what it could do to your bottom line. Imagine what it could do to your QME hourly rate, to making this up hypothetically, but this applies to many of you, to travel 1 hour on the freeway, to get to a satellite office location where you have an appointment set up, and to get to the location and have the examinee fail to show for the examination. Well, I'm sure you can imagine that 2 hours of travel time and all the ramp-up time before traveling to the location and all the ramp-up, ramp-down time after getting back from the evaluation, not to mention the at least 30 minutes that you're required to wait for the examinee at the evaluation. Imagine factoring all that time, let's just call it 3 hours just to be hypothetic. Imagine factoring that time into your total time involved with the evaluation, and then dividing your total time divided by the reimbursement that you're allowed to bill for the evaluation. Imagine what impact it could have on your bottom line to have the examinee fail to show for the evaluation and for you to have to repeat the travel on another date and time to obtain the evaluation. Imagine what devastating impact that could have on your hourly rate. It will literally decimate your hourly rate. So it's important that you either confirm or unconfirm the examinee prior to the face-to-face evaluation. It's okay if the examinee has something come up, or they need to reschedule, or they're unable to confirm the appointment. We simply then reschedule that. That's okay. That's the lesser of two evils. The worst of the two evils is to actually have the doctor go to the evaluation and not have an examinee there to be evaluated. That would simply decimate your hourly rate and cause you to lose money on each of these evaluations. And the margins on these evaluations, as it is now under the DWC's new interpretation of the complexity factors, the margins are so thin that we don't have a minute or a dollar to waste or spare on these evaluations. So I want to go through a confirmation procedure with you to help you set up the evaluation in advance and to confirm actually that the examinee plans on attending the evaluation. The second procedure has to do with establishing the tone of the evaluation, and this is done actually in the face-to-face meeting with the examinee. And the purpose behind the establish the tone procedure is for you to comfort and relax the examinee so that when you get into the face-to-face interaction, the examinee, just like you, is focused. Just like you, the examinee is targeted. And just like you, the examinee is directed. And just like you, who are watching the clock in every single minute, this allows you to respect the examinee's time, not waste the examinee's time, and provide value for each and every minute that you're with the examinee so that you both can get in, get out, get done with it, and get on with your life. So I call this procedure the establish the tone of the evaluation. And I must tell you, I myself have been teaching this procedure, and I myself have been doing this procedure now for over 12 years. And I can tell you that this procedure works to great effect. Many qualified medical evaluators have no idea of this procedure. They have no idea of the requirement of this procedure, and they have no idea of the great value that this procedure can bring to the evaluation if you'll simply implement it with your very next evaluation. So those are our topics for today, and for today's discussion, I've provided you a couple of references from the California Code of Regulations, which are CCR 40, the disclosure requirements, and CCR 41, which are the ethical requirements. And we're going to be going over both of those codes of regulation in today's discussion. So I'd like to have you take a minute to go ahead and retrieve those documents, and I'll do the same. And I look forward to being back with you here in just a few moments as we continue with our new series entitled The New Era Face-to-Face Evaluation. So I'll be back with you here in just a very few moments. Okay, I'm back with you now, and I have my reference notes for today's discussion. I hope you have your notes as well so that you can lay your own eyes on the text of the references that I have for you today. I want you to confirm that what we're discussing here today is based in law, so it's important that you lay your own eyes on these laws as they're written in current language here, current in 2018. So we're talking today about the new era face-to-face evaluation. Now it's important for you qualified medical evaluators to understand that the face-to-face evaluation begins weeks prior to the actual date of the scheduled evaluation. Now the law requires when we set up a QME appointment for the first time that we set that appointment up no sooner than 30 days, but no later than 60 days. So we have a 30-day window by law within which we can set the appointment for the qualified medical evaluation. I'm going to ask you as a new procedure to set that date between the 6th and 8th week mark from the date of the appointment call. So we're going to use almost the entirety of the 60-day grace period to set this appointment by setting the appointment between the 6th and the 8th week after the date of the appointment call. Now sometimes you might be motivated to set the appointment as soon as possible, to set it within 30 days so that you can get the appointment, compress your calendar, and get it on the books and get it done. And I've done that before myself. But now in the new era, I'm suggesting that we move that date out at least 2 weeks, and in some cases 3 weeks, and in some cases even 4 weeks. And there's several reasons for that. Number one, we want to give the claims examiner a comfortable window within which to get us her cover letter and any medical records related to the case. Also, we want to follow up with the claims administrator beginning immediately after the appointment notification form goes out, and follow up with the claims administrator to push her to get us the cover letter and the medical records. The sooner we can get the cover letters and the medical records, the sooner we can establish the complexity of the evaluation. Now, under the DWC's new interpretation of the complexity factors, in order to get paid for report preparation time under the ML 104, that requires a prior written agreement from the parties. So how much time do you think could be required to obtain a prior written agreement from the parties? In order to create a written agreement, you as the qualified medical evaluator need to know the issues. So you need to have the cover letter, you need to have the medical records, you need to have gone through the medical records to establish the complexity and the extraordinary circumstances of the evaluation. And so we need to compress and condense time towards the date of the appointment notification form. so that we get the medical records and the cover letters as close as possible to the date of the appointment notification form to allow enough time to obtain a prior written agreement from the party or parties in those cases that involve extraordinary circumstances. So we can thank the Division of Workers' Compensation for giving us this added time-consuming step that requires that we move the qualified medical evaluation 6 to 8 weeks out from the date of the appointment call. Okay? So that's a new procedure, 6 to 8 weeks from the appointment call. Now, once you get the medical records and once you get the cover letter, you can begin to prepare the evaluation in advance. And as I said in our last discussion, the preparation and setup of the evaluation is what determines the success of the evaluation itself. So there's significant steps involved with preparing the evaluation that I want to share with you in this series. So let me just give you a couple quotes on preparation that apply to this situation. Alexander Graham Bell said, "Before anything else, preparation is the key to success." And I've spoken on this many times, and it has to do with the amount of control that you can put in to the qualified medical evaluation. The more elements that you take direct control over, the greater will be the likelihood of a successful outcome of your qualified medical evaluation. I get calls from qualified medical evaluators all the time who tell me about aspects of their evaluation that didn't work out, or aspects of the evaluation that failed them or fell out of the bottom on them. And I can always trace these failures to a lack of control or perhaps an assumption by the qualified medical evaluator that someone else was handling this matter, which never happens. The more steps, more aspects, and the more components of the evaluation that you take direct iron fist control over, the better will be the outcome. So preparation is critical. Otherwise, you're simply going to be unhappy with the outcome, and it's going to cost you any of the profit that is left in these evaluations. Robert Schuller said that spectacular achievement is always preceded by unspectacular preparation. So part of the preparation that I want to talk with you today, talk about with you today, has to do with the confirmatory procedure prior to the face-to-face evaluation. So imagine that you have an upcoming evaluation this week on, say, Thursday, and today's Monday. So the confirmation procedure begins 4 days in advance of the face-to-face evaluation. So let's talk about the confirmatory procedure. First thing that you want to confirm, and you should have a template for this. I've created a template, and this is a template that I've used for, about 10 or 15 years. It has several different line items that are required to be verified in the 4 days preceding the face-to-face evaluation. So the first thing to confirm and verify is that the QME location where you plan on performing the evaluation is the same address as the location that's listed on the QME panel. Many doctors have been disciplined for changing the QME location to a location different from the location that's listed on the QME panel. Now, the Division of Workers' Compensation is serious about no changes in the location of the evaluation, at least on the first initial evaluation of any given examinee. The initial examination of any given examinee must take place at the exact location. I'm talking if the location is described as Suite A, make sure you don't do it at the same address but in Suite B, because that is not the same location. And I've had qualified medical evaluators undergo discipline for even the slightest change in location address, even so much as a change in suite letter or suite number. So confirm that the addresses are identical. And this is described under Labor Code 4628B2, which tells us, this is 4628B, it says that the report shall disclose the date and location where the evaluation was performed. And I've even seen qualified medical evaluators disciplined for not stating this within the body of the report. The Division of Workers' Compensation is so serious about this location issue that they demand under Labor Code 4628 that you confess, that you admit, that you divulge, that you disclose the location where the evaluation was performed within the body of your report. Now, if you fail to do this, the penalty is described for us under Labor Code 4628E. It says failure to comply with the requirements of this section shall make the report inadmissible as evidence, so they can throw out your report for simply leaving off the location, and shall eliminate any liability for payment of any medical legal expense incurred in connection with the report. So step number 1 is to confirm the location. Number 2 is to confirm the examinee. Now, the examinee confirmation call starts 4 days in advance of the evaluation. And so this is where the template comes in very handy. So this template is something that's going to follow you in the chart when you go to the face-to-face evaluation. You'll have this right in the chart should there be any need to recontact the examinee on the date of the evaluation. So the template includes space for the date of the QME evaluation, the location of the evaluation, and the time of the evaluation. And it has spaces for you to list the dates that you attempted confirmation calls with the examinee. Now this is critical. Never, never, never go into a QME evaluation without confirming the examinee. When you go to the evaluation without confirming the examinee, you're assuming that everything is good. And I want you to assume the exact opposite, that everything is not good, that examinees did not get their paperwork, they did not get the confirmation letter, they do not know of the appointment, they don't know where to go, they don't know what time it is. I want you to assume that everything is not good, and I want you to take control, iron fist control over every single aspect of the evaluation, because guess what? If you don't do it, guess what? Guess how it will turn out? It'll turn out crappy, and you're going to lose money, and you won't have any profit left in these evaluations. The smallest glitch in these evaluations will suck any profit that there is out of the evaluation, okay? So you start calling the examinee. Mr. Jones, this is Betty from Dr. Smith's office. We have an appointment for you this coming Thursday at 9 o'clock for your qualified medical evaluation. Are you confirmed for that appointment? Okay? Yes, I'm confirmed. Okay? Or, oh, I didn't know about the appointment. Let's assume that you have great luck, and on your first phone call, you're able to get directly through to the examinee, which almost never happens. But we're not going to go into leaving messages or speaking to the brother that answers the phone. Let's assume that you do directly get through to the examinee. What are the steps that you need to confirm with the examinee? Well, number 1, confirm that the examinee knows where the address is, where the appointment is to be held. Ask the examinee if they require directions to the location of the evaluation. Now, most examinees will tell you that they have GPS on their phone or that they have MapQuest and they can find the location, but confirm that they know where they're going in advance. If they don't know where they're going in advance, be prepared to send them an electronic MapQuest or an electronic map to the location. Provide the examinee with the phone number to the location where the evaluation is to be held. That way, if the examinee has any trouble on game day, they can call the location and communicate with the location. Also, provide the examinee with the doctor's cell phone number. What's the reason for that? Well, also, if any trouble should arise on game day, the examinee can then contact the doctor and notify the doctor of any tardiness or any troubles that could impact the evaluation. Okay, finally, once the examinee is confirmed on the date, on the time, and on the location, and how to get to the location, there's a couple of instructions that are critical that you provide to the examinee so that when the examinee arrives to the face-to-face evaluation, they're prepared, they know what to expect, and they know how to behave in order to facilitate the evaluation. So number one is you want to confirm that they're coming to the evaluation with their paperwork completed. Now, let me set this for you as a new goal. The new goal is to have every single examinee come to the evaluation with the paperwork completed. Now let me ask you, if you fail to confirm with the examinee that they're bringing their paperwork to the evaluation completed, what do you think will happen? What do you think will happen? Can't tell you how often this happens. The examinee will show to the evaluation with their paperwork uncompleted. And guess what? It's going to take 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. Depends on how much intake documents you provide to the examinee. But guess what? It's going to take them considerable time at the face-to-face evaluation to complete the paperwork that they should have completed on their own dime and on their own time. And here they are at the evaluation on game day using your dime and your time to complete the paperwork. And any profit that you had in this evaluation had just been sucked up and sucked out by having the examinee sit there while you're idle waiting for them to complete their paperwork. So this is important, important, important. Confirm that they're coming to the evaluation with the paperwork completed in advance. Now, for those examinees that require the assistance of an interpreter to complete the paperwork, you need to get this examinee to the evaluation early, and you need to get the interpreter to the evaluation early so that they can complete this paperwork while you're setting up for the evaluation. The principle is that the paperwork gets completed on their dime and on their time, not on your dime and not on your time. Do you follow me? Critical, because this one here can suck up easily 30 minutes if you fail to do this confirmation. Number two, let the examinee know what you're planning in terms of the time of the evaluation. If you're planning a 3 to 4 hour face-to-face evaluation, what would it mean to your evaluation if the examinee comes to you 2 hours into the evaluation and lets you know that they have another commitment that is going to interfere with the completion of the evaluation? That would kibosh and sabotage your entire evaluation. So you want to get the examinee committed for the entirety of the time period that you're planning for the evaluation, and make sure that they're clear on how much time you're expecting. Now, you don't have to have an exact time for the evaluation. You can run 30 minutes less, 30 minutes more, but give them a range so that they know what to expect and so that they can prepare their schedule in such a way that it guarantees the success of your evaluation. Because what would it do to your hourly rate to have the exam aborted at the 2 hour mark, only to have to come back on another day, travel again to the location, travel again away from the location, and double your costs, double your commute costs? And you see that would literally chip away at any profit left in the evaluation. So confirm that they're aware of how much time they're going to need for the evaluation. Finally, if you're planning on ordering any diagnostic studies as a component of your evaluation, you want to get those diagnostic studies done as close as possible in time to the date of the evaluation. So here's the date of the evaluation. You want to compress the time between the date of evaluation and the date of diagnostic studies. Now, many doctors don't plan this in advance, and they go to the evaluation and they decide, after they start to work on the report a week later, they decide that some diagnostic studies are necessary, and then they order the studies and they contact the examinee, and the appointment is set, and the 30-day timeline between the date of the evaluation and the date of the report being due gets gobbled up. So you want to compress time. And let me establish a new goal for you if you're ordering diagnostic studies. The new goal is for you to go to the face-to-face evaluation already knowing in advance which diagnostic studies will be required, already having those diagnostic studies approved and scheduled at the imaging facility, and already having the examinee prepared to leave the evaluation with you and go directly to the imaging facility to obtain the diagnostic studies. That's the ultimate compression of the time between the evaluation and the studies, is to have the studies done actually same day as the face-to-face evaluation. If you can do that, that allows you to get the results of the diagnostic studies no later than the next day, in which case you can complete the report immediately and get this report off your desk and get it out and get paid and get on with it. The more time that lapses between the date of the diagnostic studies and the date of the evaluation, you're losing money, you're losing time, and this evaluation is just chipping away like a dripping faucet. It's just leaking any profitability. So you want to have the examinee prepared to go for those diagnostic studies either same day, that's the new goal, or no later than the next day or the next day, and certainly within the same week, within the same business week as the evaluation, okay? So you want to confirm paperwork, confirm the time involved with the evaluation, and confirm that the examinee is prepared and is ready, willing, and able to obtain the diagnostic studies, okay? So that's your examinee confirmation. Once you're done with confirming the examinee, are you done? Well, guess what? If you assume that everything's going to work out properly, then you can be done. But if you want to take control and ensure that everything flows perfectly so that your profit is sustained and maintained, then you need to confirm the interpreter and go through the same procedure with the interpreter. Confirm that they know what time to show up. Confirm that they can show up early to help the examinee with any necessary paperwork. Confirm that they know the location where the evaluation will be held. Confirm that they're aware that this evaluation could be as long as 3 hours, could be as long as 4 hours, could be as long as 5 hours. Now, I'm sure you're aware, and you've had this happen to you before, but interpreters, they try to schedule as many appointments during a day as they can. And so I've had interpreters come to me after 2 hours and say, in 30 minutes, they have another appointment across town, and they have to leave. And that will throw a monkey wrench in the spokes of your evaluation. So you need to make sure that the interpreter is with you for the duration of the evaluation. So let them know how much time to prepare for the evaluation. Also, let the interpreter know a little bit about the scope of her duties during the evaluation. If you know that there's going to be paperwork for the examinee to complete, let the interpreter know that in advance so that she's prepared to do that before the face-to-face meeting, points during the face-to-face meeting. I use the interpreters in my evaluations also to record my examination findings so that I can go through examination procedures and I can call out the findings to the interpreter, and the interpreter can input the findings into an examination form. So that's part of the scope of practice of the interpreter in my evaluations. If you plan on using the interpreter for these types of functions, it's important that you let them know those functions in advance. So make sure to communicate with the interpreter. Get the interpreter's cell phone number, give the interpreter your cell phone number, and I usually will call the interpreter when I'm en route to the evaluation to make sure that the interpreter herself is also en route to the evaluation, okay? So communicate with the interpreter and make sure that you're together on the same page. Finally, you need to call the location of the QME appointment, the QME location, and confirm that the location is expecting you, that they're open, that some staff will be there to open the door, and confirm the location. There have been times when I've failed to confirm the location by just assuming that the front door will be open at the QME location, and guess what happens? You can get to the QME location if you fail to confirm it and have the front door locked and have to reschedule the evaluation, in which case you have just lost and frittered away any profit that there was in the evaluation. So it's important that you establish for yourself a good quality template that's easy to follow and that contains all of the important steps necessary in the confirmation procedure. Okay? Now, so we have the examinee at the face-to-face evaluation. Okay, he's been confirmed. Lo and behold, the examinee has shown up. And I want to talk to you now about an important procedure in the face-to-face evaluation. And I call this procedure, it's called establish the tone of the evaluation. And as I said earlier, I've been using this procedure for over 10 years. And it works to great effect. And here's my notes on that. Okay. So let me get myself together. Okay. So I want you to imagine this. Put yourself in the shoes of the examinee. Here is the examinee coming into a doctor's office, which is the great unknown. And examinees in the workers' compensation system can be a little bit anxious. They can be a little bit stressed out. They can be a little bit apprehensive. And none of those personality states are conducive to an open and interactive exchange during the face-to-face evaluation. You want to relax the examinee. You want to comfort the examinee. You want the examinee to be open and honest with you during the evaluation. You want the examinee to be participatory and cooperative in the evaluation. And so a couple of key steps at the inception of the face-to-face evaluation will establish rapport between you and the examinee and will bond you and the examinee so that you can both together go through the face-to-face evaluation in harmony and get done what it is you both need to get done, get out of there and get on with your busy life and have a successful exchange wherein the examinee completes the evaluation with you. Now, I don't know if you know this, but many doctors are unaware of this. But during the face-to-face evaluation, the examinee holds all the cards. The examinee has all the power. The examinee has the authority to abort the evaluation if they're not comfortable with you. It's written into law, and we're going to go over the law here in a minute. Now, if the examinee aborts the evaluation due to not being comfortable with you as the evaluator, trust me, you're screwed. You do not want this to happen. You want the examinee to fully complete the evaluation with you and leave the examining office with no beef to report. If they have a beef to report, you're screwed, okay? So a couple of preemptory procedures will help establish rapport between you and the examinee so that the examinee actually completes the evaluation with you. And I call this procedure establish the tone of the evaluation. Now, the first step in establishing the tone of the evaluation begins in the doctor's own mind. The tone of the evaluation is set in law under Labor Code 3202. This is known as the Liberal Construction Code. Now, I don't have the book with me, the Book of Workers' Compensation Laws of California, but there is such a book. It's about this thick, and it contains all the workers' compensation laws in the state of California. Well, the Liberal Construction Code is found in Labor Code Section 3200, about midway through this thickness of book describing all the laws of workers' compensation in California. And it says in the letter of Labor Code 3200 that this section, this liberal construction section, applies to the remaining section of the book. This much, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of pages actually, are governed under the liberal construction philosophy. So the liberal construction philosophy that governs this many pages within that book is described as following. This is Labor Code Section 3200. It says this division, which in the book is Division 4 of the book, and Division 5, commencing with Section 3600. And between these two divisions, as I said, there's thousands of pages. So these thousands of pages shall be liberally construed by the courts with the purpose of extending their benefits for the protection of persons injured in the course of their employment. This is known as the liberal construction philosophy. So the law requires that the courts, okay, we're not the courts, we're the qualified medical evaluators, but the law requires that the courts liberally construe all these pages of laws in the favor of extending benefits for the protection of persons injured in the course of their employment. Well, it's not written into the law, but it's my opinion and it's my experience that the liberal construction philosophy also applies to the qualified medical evaluator. So as the qualified medical evaluator, it's important that you go into the face-to-face evaluation with an attitude of liberal construction, that you're there for the purpose of extending benefits to persons injured in the course of their employment. These are the laws that govern the entire workers' compensation system in California, which are to be liberally construed to protect persons injured in their employment. So it's important that you install and adopt this attitude in your own mind before meeting with the examinee in the face-to-face evaluation. You need to have an attitude that you're there to provide benefits to those persons if they're injured in the course of their employment. You're there to provide some benefit, some service to these persons. So by adopting this attitude in your own mind, it translates into all of your behavior. It translates into all of your words. It translates into your demeanor, and trust me, the examinees can feel it. So the tone of the evaluation begins first by the doctor adopting an attitude of liberal construction within his own mind. Now, it's important that you realize that the tone of the examination begins before the face-to-face evaluation. It begins upon your first meeting with the examinee in the waiting room. And here, every detail counts. Just as you are sizing up and observing the examinee in the waiting room, the examinee is observing and sizing you up as you approach the waiting room. And every detail counts. So it's important that this initial interaction create a favorable first impression in the mind of the examinee. So every doctor has their own method of establishing rapport with the examinee, but certainly rapport with the examinee begins with a warm, friendly handshake, with a sincere smile, with a nice, courteous greeting. Good morning, Mr. Jones. I'm Dr. Carpenter. I'll be your evaluator today. I want to thank you for being on time for your appointment. Do you have any needs before we begin? If the examinee is attended by their wife or some family member or a second party, you can also greet the second party, be polite and courteous to the second party, and let the second party know about what they can expect for the duration of the evaluation. For example, you might say, well, hello, are you Mrs. Jones? Yes, I'm Mrs. Jones. And you'll shake her hand and say, hi, I'm Dr. Carpenter. I want to let you know that I'll be with Mr. Jones for about 3 hours. So it's now 9 o'clock. I imagine we'll finish up right around 12 o'clock. Do you plan on going shopping, or are you going to run errands, or what is your plan? Oh, I don't know what my plan is, but now that you tell me that I have 3 hours, maybe I'll go do some shopping. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, do you have a cell phone? Do you have a cell phone? What we can do is we can give you a call when we're within 15 minutes of being done, and you communicate with the second party and let them know what they can expect. And the examinee has a chance to observe this and observe you and observe your sincerity. And it's these initial steps that help the examinee to relax and become comfortable with you for the duration of the evaluation. Okay? Now, after you meet in the waiting room, then you're going to proceed back to the examining room. And here is where each of these steps are critical. When you get the examinee to the examination room, you want to look at the examination room from the eyes of the examinee. You want to have the examinee impressed with the condition of the examining room. When the examinee walks into the examination room, everything should be prepared for the examinee. Everything should be clean. Everything should be tidy. Everything should be organized. Everything should be arranged. Everything should be ready, tidy for the examinee. Trust me, when the examinee walks into the examining room, they're picking up every detail, much as the way you pick up every detail when you walk into a hotel room that you've just paid $250 a night for. You don't want to see disarray. You don't want to see randomity. You want to see that this room is ready for you. And similarly, you want the examinee impressed with the condition of the examining room. So you get the examinee settled in their chair. Be courteous to the examinee. Be a little bit like a butler. Offer to take the examinee's coat. Offer to get them comfortable in their chair. Ask them if they need the men's room or the ladies' room. And get the examinee comfortable in their chair before beginning the face-to-face evaluation. And remember, to sustain the attitude of liberal construction throughout this initial procedure and give the examinee some impression that they're going to be getting some benefit by their interaction with you. When you speak with the examinee, you want to use kind words, caring words, sincere words, and be very genuine in communicating with the examinee. Now, a couple words on the power of kind, caring words. Albert Schweitzer said, constant kindness can accomplish much. As the sun makes ice melt, kindness causes misunderstanding, mistrust, and hostility to evaporate. And isn't that exactly what we want from our examinee? We want the examinee to have no mistrust. We want the examinee to have no hostility. We want the examinee to have no misunderstandings. And we accomplish that through the use of kind and caring words. Blaise Pascal said, kind words do not cost much, yet they accomplish much. Finally, Mark Twain said, kindness is the language which the deaf can hear and the blind can see. And that's exactly what we want. We want our examinee to be comforted. We want our examinee to be calmed. We want our examinee to be relaxed and comfortable with us so that we can get on with the business of the face-to-face evaluation. So once the examinee is situated and you've exchanged a few comforting words, you want to go ahead and collect the paperwork, make sure the examinee has fully completed any and all paperwork that you've sent to them. Now, many times examinees will come to the evaluation with some of the paperwork completed, some of the paperwork not completed. Your goal is to have every single piece of necessary paperwork fully completed. So you need to carry with you a compendium of forms and a compendium of questionnaires in the case of examinees who lost a document, lost a form, failed to complete a form, screwed up a form. You need to have a replacement form available for them. Never, ever, ever leave the face-to-face evaluation with an intended piece of paperwork incomplete. Every single piece of paperwork that's required for the evaluation needs to be completed. So be prepared to provide them with any replacement forms or replacement questionnaires depending upon what they did with the initial one that you provided them. Okay? Next step is to exchange driver's licenses, and for you as the qualified medical evaluator to provide them with your driver's license and a copy of your QME certificate. At the same time, this is an exchange, at the same time that they're providing you with their photo identification. Hopefully it's a California driver's license. Now this procedure is so powerful. Do not omit or drop out this procedure. It's so powerful. It establishes some formality to the procedure as the examinee can see that you're following rules and regulations by providing them with your identification, with a copy of your QME credential. And then also, this allows you to gather great information as well from their driver's license. This allows you to confirm the address on their driver's license with the address that you have on your demographic data. It allows you to get a look at their height and weight as it's described on their driver's license compared to the examinee that you see before you. And it also gives you other information as well. For example, if you ask for the examinee's driver's license and they're unable to provide you a driver's license, and yet they drove to the evaluation, that may be some information that's relevant to your evaluation in one way or another. So make sure to exchange driver's licenses and include their driver's license in the demographic data, in the demographic table on the first page of your report. Okay? Now, once those procedures are complete, we're going to go through what I refer to as the prepared statement procedure. And I don't know how many of you evaluators provide the examinee with a prepared statement, but here is the prepared statement that I use. Now, when I go through the prepared statement procedure and there's an interpreter present, the interpreters always tell me that they've never done this procedure before. They've never seen it. No other doctor has done it. This is a first for them. But guess what? This procedure is required. It's required. But many qualified medical evaluators are not aware that it's required and they don't do it. But guess what? It's required. And if I can get you to do it, you're going to see fabulous results from this procedure. This procedure is so powerful. This procedure bonds and cements your relationship with the examinee so that they accomplish the goal. The goal is to get to the finish line with the evaluation completed without them aborting the evaluation midstream. Okay? So this is called the prepared statement procedure. Now I want to tell you a little bit about the history of the prepared statement procedure. Back in 2008, it was, almost 12 years ago, I was reviewing some of the QME regulations and I realized that this procedure is required, but I wasn't doing it at the time. So I wanted to formalize the procedure, and so I put together a prepared statement. And before I implemented the prepared statement in the face-to-face evaluation, I wanted to get a comment from the Division of Workers' Compensation about the procedure. So I sent the prepared statement and a description of my procedure to the medical director at the time. And the medical director, she reviewed my procedure and she reviewed my statement, and she responded. She responded to me in a 2-page letter, and I have that right here. And you can see that this letter is dated February 14, 2008, and it's on State of California, Division of Workers' Compensation Medical Unit, letterhead. So this is a letter to me from the medical director, which was Ann Searcy, MD, at the time. So I told her about this procedure and I wanted her approval. And she wrote back and she said, please be informed that the Division of Workers' Compensation does not approve the use of either version of your proposed form for the reasons discussed below. And she lists here 4 reasons. You can see those numbered here, 1 through 4. 1 through 4. Those are her reasons. And the reasons have to do with, basically, at the time, I was requiring, or I was proposing to require, that the examinee sign the prepared statement, so that they would read a prepared statement, and then at the bottom of the prepared statement, they would sign the form, basically stating that they read and understood the entirety of the statement. Well, she wrote back and she said that there's nothing in law that requires the examinee to sign anything. By having the examinee sign some things, it could cause some misunderstanding, that the examinee could think that if they didn't sign or that they refused to sign, that the evaluation could be suspended or postponed, none of which is true. So the DWC did not approve of the procedure the way it was proposed at the time. But she wrote to me and she said, although we cannot approve the form you've proposed, blah, 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 this does not mean that you may not document the fact that you have advised an injured worker of his or her rights and that you have given the injured worker the opportunity to ask questions during the evaluation. She says, for example, you might consider adopting a standard office practice of handing injured workers a copy of the complete text of Labor Code 4062.3 E through H and Title 8 Code of Regulations 40 before their evaluation begins, and add a statement line in your reports stating that this has been done. And that's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. So I hand the examinee a copy of the complete text of Labor Code 4062.3, which occupies the upper half of the prepared statement, and then Title 8 Code of Regulations 40, which occupies the bottom half of the statement. Now, during this discussion, I'm not going to go into the top section. The top section has to do with communications and ex parte communications. And it's important that you review that with examinees. And it's powerful that you review that with examinees, because that's what eliminates phone calls from examinees to you after the evaluation. It's prohibited by ex parte communications. So I'm not going to go into that now. I want to spend more time about the disclosure requirements as those are described in CCR 40. So I have here the entire text of CCR 40. These are known as the disclosure requirements. The disclosure requirements. These are things that were required to disclose to the examinee prior to the face-to-face evaluation. And this is so powerful. If I can just get you to do this. Many qualified medical evaluators, they don't do this. They don't do it. They don't even know that this procedure is required. But let me just read this to you. It states, an evaluator selected from a QME panel, that's us, shall advise an injured worker prior to or at the time of the actual evaluation of the following. And there's 4 things that were required to disclose. I think I'll just read a couple of them to you, and you'll get the point. Number 1, that he or she is entitled to ask the evaluator, and the evaluator shall promptly answer questions about any matter concerning the evaluation process in which the QME and the injured worker are involved. So, Mrs. Jones, if you have questions at any time, you just let me know, and I'll do my best to answer those questions. If I don't know the answer to the question, I'll admit that I don't know, but if I do know, I'll give you my best answer. Okay, do you understand? And you get a head nod from them. Number 2, and this is where the power of this procedure rests. Number 2, we're required to inform them of this. It says in law that subject to Section 41G, which are the ethical requirements, the injured worker may discontinue the evaluation based on good cause. We're required to tell them that they can discontinue the evaluation. We're supposed to tell them this in advance of the evaluation. Good cause includes, number 1, discriminatory conduct by the evaluator towards the worker based on race, sex, national origin, religion, or sexual preference. Number 2, abusive, hostile, or rude behavior, including behavior that clearly demonstrates a bias against injured workers. And 3, instances where the evaluator requests the worker to submit to an unnecessary exam or procedure. Isn't that amazing? We're required to inform the examinee prior to the evaluation that they have the authority to discontinue the evaluation if they think we're rude, if they think we're abusive, if they think we're discriminatory, if they think we're conducting an examination procedure that they don't consider to be relevant to their industrial injury. Guess what? They now know that they have the authority to abort the evaluation. What do you think of that? Now, your job throughout the remainder of the evaluation, now that you've given them the authority, your job is to not be rude, is to not be hostile, is to not be abusive, is to not be discriminatory, is to not have any kind of attitude toward injured workers. Your job is to limit your examination procedures specifically to the appropriate body parts. Now, when the examinee reads this, if your examination is going to involve a physical examination of sensitive body parts, this is where you inform the examinee of that. Now, Mrs. Jones, it's important that you be comfortable here and that you know we're not going to do any unnecessary examination procedures. Now, your injury involves the lower back and lumbar spine, so as part of that evaluation, it will be necessary for me to see and to be able to touch your lower back. Now, will you be comfortable with that? And you get a head nod from them in advance so that they don't abort the evaluation. Because they now know that they can. Now, this is required by law, but many doctors don't do this procedure by choice because they believe that they wonder, why would I want to give the examinee the knowledge that they have the authority to abort the examination? Doesn't that just put the seed in their mind that they can abort the evaluation? Well, the answer to that is no. The exact opposite is the case. When you inform the examinee in advance that they have all the power, and then you behave in a way that makes it impossible for them to abort the evaluation, then they complete the evaluation with you in synchrony and in harmony. They go with you through the flow of your evaluation because they know that you're not going to do anything unnecessary. You're not going to be rude. You're not going to be discriminatory, and they're with you. And this is called establishing the tone of the evaluation, and this procedure is so critical. It's so critical. If you have an interpreter present during the evaluation, you have the interpreter read the entire text of the written statement with them, and then you go over each component of the written statement with the examinee and get a head nod from the examinee. This procedure does not take a lot of time, but it pays great dividends in the rapport that it allows you to establish with the examinee prior to the face-to-face evaluation. As long as you're not rude, abusive, or hostile, you can do anything from that point forward in the face-to-face evaluation, and the examinee knows that your intentions are good, that your intentions are honorable, that your intentions are sincere, and that you know that they can leave you if they don't feel that you're honest, sincere, and genuine. They know that they have the power. So this is a great procedure, and it's written into law for us as qualified medical evaluators to behave ourselves during the evaluation. As I said, your goal is a completed evaluation where the examinee completes the evaluation with you and does not abort the evaluation with you midstream. So I've included this prepared statement in today's materials, and I recommend that you start adopting this procedure with your very next evaluation. So in today's discussion, we went over the confirmation procedures and established the tone of the evaluation procedures, and both of these are going to dramatically improve the efficiency of your evaluation by, number one, ensuring that the examinee shows up, and then number two, that the examinee who does show up is well behaved, has all their paperwork completed, knows what to expect, is prepared to go for their diagnostic studies, and is with you for whatever it is that you need to do within the course of your evaluation with them. In our next discussion, we're going to talk about getting into the meat of the face-to-face evaluation and how to assess the examinee's sincerity quickly and accurately during the face-to-face evaluation. Because if you determine that your examinee is not sincere, I'm going to recommend that you significantly shorten the face-to-face evaluation to the limit that's required by law. For neuromusculoskeletal evaluations, the limit of the face-to-face evaluation by law is 20 minutes. So for examinees who are not sincere, who are not honest, who are not forthcoming, and who are not participating in the evaluation, we're going to shorten this evaluation and get out of it quickly so that we can preserve our hourly rate, because insincere examinees will take you on wild goose chases unnecessarily, and that will significantly impact your bottom line. So assessment of examinee credibility is now more important than ever, and we're going to go into great detail into that in our very next evaluation. So for today, I hope you found some practical procedures that you can use in your very next evaluation. This is Dr. Perry Carpenter. I want to conclude today's discussion by thanking you for joining me on today's video. I look forward to being with you on our very next session. And for now, I'm wishing you best of success in your career as a qualified medical evaluator.